Welcome, everyone. Welcome. If you can, please drop your name and where you're from in the chat. It's always great to know who is joining us today. And we'll get started in just one more minute. We'll give folks some more time. All right, it is just about 2 minutes after the top of the hour, so we will go ahead and get started. Again, welcome everyone. Great to see all of you here today for the Enhance in School Capacity to Address Youth Violence Program. We have several acronyms, but for the sake of not confusing everyone, I will withhold all of those for today. My name is Ricardo Goodridge. I am with LISC, and I am one of the training and technical assistance leads for this program. And again, it's great to see so many of you in attendance as we get ready to delve into a topic on project coordination, which we know so many of you are so invested in and interested in learning about. If you are just hopping on, it's great to get to know who's here. So if you can just drop your name and where you're from, that would be wonderful. We'll do a few kind of housekeeping issues before we begin. As you might have seen when you logged on, this meeting is being recorded, and we will be sure to post it on the LISC website in the coming days. We definitely want this meeting to be interactive, and you'll hear that theme throughout. But when you aren't speaking, please just mute, just so that we can limit the background noise. That would be greatly appreciated. And I also want to acknowledge that while today is our primary webinar on this topic, we do have office hours available tomorrow as well. Same time, 1 o'clock. For those of you that are interested in connecting in a more direct manner around some of the questions or the topics or the themes that might come up today. So I wanted to make that plug. Um, with those items out the way, though, let's turn to the business at hand. So you may be wondering why project coordination, why is that a point of focus? Well, the grant itself actually does have a requirement, and it's the one time I'll read something verbatim. But what it says is there needs to be a local coordinator to lead the project, to support the development of any needed MOUs, to host regular meetings, and ensure that each agency and school identifies a dedicated liaison for this initiative. So, with that kind of background knowledge, in our interactions with many of you, it became clear quickly that so many of you are wearing multiple hats, and you may just be limited in the amount of time you can provide to be a true project coordinator. It's also clear that some of you, for the first time, are in leadership roles, which is an amazing opportunity, and we're so glad that you're there. And then yet still we have others of you who are project leaders, but are just so busy that you kind of said, hey, a booster wouldn't hurt. I'm not saying I need it, but if you provided a booster, I'd be open to it as well. So we just have a range of folks here, and again, we just acknowledge that everyone has a lot of their plate, and sometimes it's good to either have that refresher, so to speak, or to make sure that you have some of that foundational knowledge. Fortunately for us here at LISC, we work with the team at Community Capacity Builders, and they provide, wow, just a suite of services, and in particular, things that are of benefit to you, things on project management, in project supports and leadership and engagement. And we just thought, what a wonderful opportunity to really kind of supplement a lot of the things that we're hearing from you. So joining us today, and I'll just do just overview introductions for now, are Donna Griffin, Shanisha Mitchell, and Jenny Chen. And you're going to hear from Donna and Shanisha a little bit later on today. But again, just want to acknowledge and thank the team so much for all that they do to really help us to make sure that we have kind of true community engagement and true leadership and supports in place. In addition to our colleagues at Community Capacity Builders, we are also really fortunate that a fellow grantee is willing to kind of share a little bit about her experience as well. And so Stacy Holderman, who is a licensed professional clinical counseling supervisor and the director of mental health for Nelson County Schools, that is a mouthful, is going to share some gems with us today. And we are excited to hear from her as well. So, without further ado, I am going to turn things over to Donna and Janisha to get us started.
Thanks, Ricardo. How are you? I hope everybody's well. Again, as Ricardo said, my name's Donna Griffin. I am the founder and president of Community Capacity Builders that's based in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And for the past 20 years or so, I've been building, leading, and supporting community-based violence prevention and intervention strategies with community-based organizations as well as city government. We're super excited to connect with each of you and your sites to learn about your school capacity strategies and how we can best support project coordination that leads to successful outcomes. Following this presentation and tomorrow's office hours engagement, please expect to receive an email from either Shanisha or myself to schedule a one-on-one call to explore areas where we can be of best support to project coordination in your site. So with that said, I am obligated to share that today's presentation is supported by grant number 5P JDP 22GK03889 STOP, awarded by Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention, Office of Justice Programs, U.S. Department of Justice. The opinions, findings, and conclusions or recommendations expressed in today's webinar are those of the authors and do not necessarily reflect those of the Department of Justice. So I think that should be our last housekeeping item, and we'll get started with the presentation. So as Ricardo stated, I am joined today by Shanisha Mitchell, a member of the CCB team, who will also support technical assistance to the ESC project coordinators. Shanisha has over a decade of experience championing youth development and emphasizing holistic support for every child. She's a dedicated organizational leader who is passionate about shaping communities by meeting people where they are. First rule of community engagement. With more than a decade of experience in nonprofit and project management, she achieves organizational change and sustainable growth by leading with intention, strategic vision, and planning. Jenny Chen, CCB's program manager, is a community development practitioner and organizer committed to racial justice and building the capacity of residents to create change in their neighborhoods. Today, Jenny will be supporting us as a tech person. All right, so I don't know if you can see her, but Shanisha and Jenny, say hello. So we thought it would be useful to have one of your peers join us to share their school capacity coordination and collaboration experience. And Stacy Holderman was so graciously agreed to step into this guest role today and tomorrow. Stacy is currently serving as the Director of Mental Health for Nelson County Schools in Kentucky. She's a licensed professional clinical counseling supervisor who has been an advocate for students and families across the state of Kentucky. Stacy is working to increase school safety by preventing and reducing school violence through intensive case management, implementation of prevention and intervention programs, and offering integrated community-based services for students. Stacy's expertise in clinical diagnosis and treatment has been instrumental in laying the foundation for the Thrive Center for Nelson County Schools. So today's webinar agenda covers 4 project leadership topics. For each topic, CCB will share best practices and tools for project coordination and collaboration. Then we'll invite Stacy to share her safety capacity, project coordination experiences, and insights related to a specific topic. Again, please mute your microphones and use the chat for any questions you may have during the presentation. If time permits, we will answer as many questions as possible at the end of the session. For questions that we're unable to answer today, we invite you to join us tomorrow at 1 p.m. to ask Stacy, Shanisha, and me questions during office hours. There will be an additional opportunity to engage us one-on-one during the February 28th and 29th ESC convening in New York. All right, so Ricardo did share with you kind of the OJJDP expectations, and we're just going to build on that a little bit to get us started. So the basic expectations were communicated in the OJJDP solicitation that included, number 1, projects having a leading role in the planning and implementation of the Enhancing School Capacity Initiative. As leaders, coordinators are really the driving force for a team made up of multiple partners who represent a variety of experiences and expertise aligned to the individual, relationship, community, and societal factors that contribute to youth violence. Project coordinators create an environment of mutual respect, understanding, and trust, and are tasked with engaging intervention and prevention partners, working within budget restraints and monitoring the work to make sure the partners are following an agreed upon schedule. As the project coordinator, you're also responsible for collecting data, producing funder reports, and ultimately moving the needle on project deliverables proposed in your implementation plan. Project coordinators support the development of clear agendas or agreements, which are called memorandums of understanding, that document roles and responsibilities between your school or community-based organization and your collaborative partner. We'll dig a little deeper into constructing an MOU later on in the webinar. Right now, I'd just like to emphasize that MOUs are an important tool to help project coordinators manage partner expectations, and it's helpful for you. School capacity coordinators host consistent and regular meetings with project partners throughout the project period to facilitate communication, accountability, problem solving, trust and relationship building, all of which are crucial for meeting the outcomes and deliverables that you've outlined in your collaborative and multifaceted intervention strategies. A coordinator's role is to plan and facilitate meetings on a consistent and regular basis throughout the life of the project. Project coordinators also have a responsibility to identify a point of contact for all collaborative partners engaged in the school capacity project. Identifying the day-to-day point of contact and their supervisor will improve your ability to keep the work going in the event your point of contact leaves the organization or is reassigned at the company. Intentionality around data collection helps you and your partners understand progress towards the stated project goals and outcomes, and whether or not there's a need to make adjustments to your strategy. Having been a project coordinator, I can't emphasize enough how crucial your leadership role is to the school capacity project. Safety capacity initiatives require day-to-day coordination work that keeps the project moving towards achieving the collaborative team's shared goals. Success is dependent on skilled and committed project coordination. When people say you get out what you put in, they're really talking about project coordination. So from 2012 to 2016, I was a project coordinator for a Philadelphia-based public safety initiative. And I made it a practice to consistently build relationships with residents in the community groups, city agencies, service providers, and funders. Efforts were made to facilitate trust and relationship building amongst implementation partners and a high level of understanding about the work each organization or partner committed to. I would use subject matter experts to conduct trainings and share information that help to expand community and partners' knowledge in specific areas related to crime reduction. Each year, partners' roles and responsibilities were revisited and data sharing agreements reviewed to confirm commitment as well as process. The team used a mix of project communication strategies that led to successfully leveraging grant funds to secure resources and additional funding that allowed the We Are Mantua partners an opportunity to continue the work. To this day, residents, institutions, service providers, city agents, and nonprofits continue to work together with a dedicated full-time project coordinator to implement a coordinated and collaborative youth violence intervention strategy in 5 West Philadelphia neighborhoods. So I think my point there is just that, making that day-to-day concerted effort will have great results now and can help to sustain the work in the future. And so with that, I'm going to turn the mic over to Shanisha, who will talk about building collaborative partnerships to advance the goals of your school capacity initiative. Shanisha?
Hey, everyone. So we're going to talk about building collaborative partnership. And the first thing is, why do we collaborate? Why collaboration? Collaboration isn't just about teaming up, as we know. It's about using our strengths to make services better, getting different viewpoints involved, and getting everyone on board to make a bigger impact. Quick story. When I was a project coordinator for an after-school program, there was a student who was having a tough time and might have had to switch to a different school. But they were actually really, really talented in the school play. So when the student's mom, who we couldn't reach before, got involved in the school play, things changed. Recognizing an opportunity to address gaps in services, we decided to work together. We got the play director, after-school staff, and teachers on board to really help out and serve this child. And through a multi-tiered support plan, we addressed the students' needs, like mental health support, and we made sure the parents knew that we were there for them, and we also connected them with other external resources that they may have needed. Our commitment to collaboration ensured the students' success, and it showed us how important it is to work together. It also got us thinking about how we can make bigger changes and how we help students, and we started talking about changing the rules, if you will, to better support them. Next slide, Jenny, sorry. So to have a collaborative partnership, you need to find the right people to partner with. And this is where the project coordinator really comes into play. Project coordinators have a big role looking at things from different angles and overseeing the process and really figuring out who to partner with. This process is called asset mapping. It involves looking at all the different resources, the people, the groups, and the community, whatever is available. And it's not just about the physical stuff like buildings and businesses, but also like how people communicate and how connected the community feels. It's also important to understand that not all partners, it's also important to understand that not all partners are the same. Each one brings their own strengths and their ideas to the table. And it's really a good idea to keep checking in on those partnerships to see if there are any gaps or if there are new people or groups that could join in. This way, we can make sure our collaborations are always changing and adaptive to what the community needs. And if I take a long pause, I have two little pups who believe that they're a little bigger than what they are. So here in this picture, you see the asset mapping process. You can see how a recreation center in Philadelphia mapped out all of the resources that they have available. These include businesses like Dunkin' Donuts and Subaru, as well as city organizations like the local police station and SEPTA. The asset mapping process begins by involving existing partners, groups, and groups that they've already worked with to make sure that they don't miss anything. Then the project coordinator decided what specific goal they wanted to achieve by working together. The project coordinator also decides how big of an area they want to focus on, like a neighborhood or the whole city. After that, everyone comes together to think about the resources that we have, either by making a list or marking them on the map, as you see. Finally, they match up these resources with things they wanted to accomplish. This helps them figure out which partners could help reach their goals. By doing this step-by-step process, organizations can make the most of what they have and work together better on projects. So engaging new partners. Engaging new partners is actually really essential, and you want to do this early on in the planning in the planning process. It really helps everyone work together better, and it makes sure that there's commitment to the project from the very start. So you want to find the people who make the big decisions in these partners or organizations, and you want to do that early on. It's incredibly important. And when these top folks support the project, it makes the project coordinator's role much easier. Showing how both sides can benefit from working together is key. So, you're really building that mutual benefit and that understanding. So, for example, explaining how a joint program can both help students does good for both the school and the community partners. And you want to be open to those community partners. You want to hear about their ideas, and it really shows how you respect their knowledge, and it allows them to want to be part of the process. When working with a community group, it's really good to listen to their suggestions, and you want to provide clear information and follow up with data, which helps everyone understand what's going on. For example, sharing detailed plans and timelines with school partners keeps everyone in the loop. Recording notes also and documenting also, if you want to highlight what's expected, when things should be done, and it just keeps everyone on the same page, and it avoids problems later on. And that's where you get the strong partnership, the strong partners building on trust, mutual benefit, and respect. So collaboration challenges, and I'm sure everyone on this call can attest, working with folks is just always not easy. It's so easy to go ahead and try to work alone and solve problems. But You know, I think that for project coordinators, when you learn how to work collaboratively, it aids in personal and professional growth. And one big challenge, you know, is finding and getting the right people on board, like schools, teachers, community groups. But, you know, if you're able to build trust with these folks, it helps everyone communicate better and work together smoothly. And so even though building trust might seem tough at first, it's definitely worth it because it makes relationships stronger. Also, making sure everyone knows who makes decisions can make things run smoothly and prevent delays. You know, for instance, if a school counselor and a community mental health provider are both working with the same student but are unaware of each other's intentions and interventions, it can lead to duplication of efforts or gaps in support because, you know, they're doing the same thing. So instead of working separately, bringing everyone together really helps make sure students get the best supports possible. And so I'm going to turn it over to the expert, back to Stacy Holderman. And so Stacy, what was your process for building your internal project team and your collaboration made up of your external community partners and internal?
Yeah, well, first of all, thanks for inviting me to just share the experiences that I've had so far. I hope that as I'm sharing, it resonates with all of you project coordinators out there. And I'm guessing we're going to have a lot of great things to talk about in New York when we all convene. But when I think about really how I went about building partnerships, the task was quite daunting at first. And so if any of you are feeling that way, I certainly felt it when I came on board. I was hired as the director of mental health for a school district of around 5,000 students. And this was a new role for the school district. They had not had a director of mental health before hiring me into the position. So you know, I had challenges from the very beginning. And my first challenge was I needed to learn who my internal partners were first. And so that took some time because I'm also not from the area. So I teased everybody when I first came on board and said, I don't even know how to go get lunch. Where's the Wendy's? You know, my favorite place to eat lunch. So, you know, my work was really cut out for me. I have 12 schools. And the culture is different in the schools. Obviously, the administration's different in each of those schools, and it's a new role. So there was a lot of work before me. So I really went about my project coordinator roles by just starting to learn first the internal organization. And you all can imagine that took me a while because I wasn't just learning one school building. I had 12. So I teased people and said I went on tour when I first arrived, and I fired that navigation up and I went to all my schools, and I quickly started learning people and taking cheat notes because I couldn't remember all the people, and just learning all I could about each of those buildings. So that was really one of the first things that I started doing. And then my second thing was probably I really needed to understand the project. And there's something that I'll talk about for a moment. And I don't know if any of you have had this experience, but in Nelson County, we have a grant writer who wrote the grant, who was able to, you know, connect me and our team with great resources. And so it's so exciting to be able to have that resource and to be part of this team. But I needed to understand the project and how the grant was written, what was the narrative behind it, right? And I know that when I came on board, the language and the message that I was receiving was we need a director of mental health. Our mental health needs are high. There are behavioral challenges throughout the district. There are some serious behavioral challenges throughout the district. And so my overarching goal was to come in, embed a clinical mental health clinic within our district. I was tasked with really building a team to be able to provide the resources throughout the district, and then prioritizing students who land at what we call the academy. And those are your most at-risk students, students who have been involved in violent acts, students who might be working with court designated workers, really at-risk youth, you know. So when you think about coming into a situation like I did, and I'm guessing many of you have as well, you know, it was quite daunting, and there was a lot of work to do. So I just chunked it out. I first learned the internal organization, and then I moved to, I really need to understand my goals of the project. And in doing that, I learned that a lot of the internal people don't understand the goals of this project. So what they saw through their lens was, we've hired a director of mental health. Great. What's her phone number? I want to call her. We need help. So I think I was on speed dial for people, you know, quite frequently, but they didn't understand the project. So again, and I know I kind of repeat myself here, but I'm doing that just so you can kind of really grasp how I started. Internal organization, understand the project, and then really doing the work internally to help others understand the project and what that meant. Schools in general are really great at hiring school people, like teachers and bus drivers and people to work in the cafeteria. Like, they know what all those roles do, and they know, you know, how they should hire them, and they even know how to pay them. Like, they know all the ins and outs of how to hire a school and work with school people, but they don't often know how to work with people with different expertise coming in. And I was one of those people. You know, I was a clinical person coming into a school environment. So fortunately, I had I had some higher education experience for a lot of years, and I had some secondary experience as well, and that helped me. But my job became, I've got to educate the people internally about the project. And then I was finally ready. And that was the question that Shanisha asked me. How did I go about developing those partnerships? I had to do those other things first. And once I did those things, now I'm ready to look at the drawing board. Who are the current partners that my district already had? What purpose do they serve? How can I use them, and how can that align with the project goals that I have? And so that's really where my work began with partnerships. You know, I just jumped in my car and I went out and I met all of my partners, and I spent time in their space. And that is such a valuable experience. I encourage you all to do that. So, you know, I think that it's hard for people to just meet someone and just trust them immediately. That's not going to happen. You have to have an experience with them. They have to see you more than once. And so I really enjoyed that part of the process. And I did that, you know, fairly early on, just driving to those sites, meeting the partners, learning, a lot of listening, a whole lot of listening, and absorbing how those partners are currently helping the school district. And then I was able to take a step back and say, okay, these are the current partners. These are partners I inherited, if you will. And now look at big goals. Who else do I need? And so I think we will be even getting into that, you know, in another one of our slides where I'll talk a little bit more about partnerships. But, you know, just think of this as, you know, I feel like our project coordinators are kind of like architects. We're building something. We're building systems, and we're building partnerships. And so once I had those foundation pieces and understood my project, understood who my current partners were, then I could start laying it out. Who do I need to accomplish these goals? And I started reaching out to those individuals, making phone calls, going out, visiting, and really explaining why we need a new partner and why they might benefit from partnering with us. And so that really led me through the process of identifying really who I need and who I want to continue partnering with. So
Stacy, you just dropped a lot of gems. That was amazing. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yeah, so I think this is a great time to segue into setting goals and delegating responsibilities. All right, so yeah, I think what we want to do here is identify or simplify a little bit, if you will, by giving you a broad picture of how you do set goals and delegate responsibilities with your partners. Also, we want to give you some tips for developing your memorandums of understanding. So as fiscal year 22 grantees, your site may have completed or is close to completing the planning process. As part of this process, sites have identified resources or in the process of identifying resources to implement specific areas of the project, as well as activities to be carried out by the lead organization and its partners. You'll also be looking at what data you collect that conveys your successful achievement of your stated outcomes. So goal setting is a crucial component for managing the action plan process towards your outcomes. I always like to recommend that people consider the SMART goal framework to ensure, number one, that your goals are achievable. This framework is a tool to ensure that each specific project goal has an outcome that is clearly understood. You will need to have quantifiable objectives so that you can track progress, or in other words, confirm that your goals are measurable. Also ask, are our goals achievable and aligned to the mission or the overarching shared goal of the project? Lastly, assign a timeline to each goal. The SMART goal framework template is actually easy to find. If you haven't used it, it's easy to find and is widely available on the internet. And I want to, you've heard trust and relationship building a lot already, and you'll hear it more throughout this presentation. But I want to say that it is really beneficial to engage your partners in the planning and decision-making process to reinforce their buy-in and or ownership of the project. It also facilitates transparency that lifts up trust and relationship building amongst your partners. So, reach out for those partners early on and engage them in the actual work. Shanisha is going to share with us a chart she uses as a tool for project coordination.
Yes. This is this RACI chart is actually one of my favorite tools, especially if you just have multiple responsibilities. And so the RACI chart features individual tabs. Well, it's the way I set it up, and you can play around with it, but the individual tabs represent various programs. It just ensures accountability and serving the whole child through multifaceted approach to life. To student life, really. So let's take a look at the truancy tab, Jenny. And specifically, truancy is included as one of the tabs because we recognize that the interconnectedness between youth violence and truancy, with truancy often acting as a precursor to risky behaviors and violence among youth. So, yes. So we can just take a deep dive and you can see who is responsible and who's accountable. And often the folks who are responsible and accountable, that just really creates the accountability of who actually is going to take ownership of the task. And often those roles can be switched, but those are the folks that, it's their job to make sure these things things are followed through. And I think you can see already with the school principal, they hold a lot of accountability for several critical steps. It just really indicates their central role in driving the program success. And also with this chart, you can see other relevant stakeholders that are consulted and informed, just to make sure that there is collaboration and that there is transparency. And that's really what this chart is about. So typically, I would use this chart for truancy intervention, summer programming, youth workforce development, and so just going through the chart, Jenny is actually going to share this chart with you, and you can have time frame, you can have notes, but it's just a really great tool to use to ensure accountability.
Thanks, Anisha. And so now, you've identified your goals and your outcomes and hopefully agreed upon roles and responsibilities for each partner, and you're ready to begin developing your memorandum of understanding. And when you're doing that, I recommend that you, include the name of the grant program and award number, provide some background information about the project. For example, this MOU defines collaborative activities to be carried out by the partner and grantee to implement the Enhancing School Capacity to Address Youth Violence project, ... Include a description of the partner agency services. For example, look at maybe their about page on the internet and just include that description of what their core business is. Also state the purpose of the MOU, including the shared goals, and describe how the collaboration benefits the project. It's important to clearly detail the agreed upon roles and responsibilities for the partnering organization or agency. The roles and responsibilities should align with the project goals, objectives, target outputs, data sharing agreement, and more. Just be sure to include all specifics tied to programmatic and data evaluation and reporting when you're constructing your memorandum of understanding. You'll also want to include the name of the partner liaison or point person, and include attendance at the attendance requirement at collaborative meetings or participation in community events, whatever the case may be. Include a start and end date for the partnership, and name the grantee project coordinator as the point person for your partner. And that way you'll receive all communications and submission of deliverables associated with the project. I always like to include terms for termination of the partnership and the organization's confidentiality policy in the MOU. And lastly, signatories should be authorized to sign on behalf of the agency or organization. And for example, you wouldn't want your liaison to sign the agreement, but you would want the executive director, CEO, president, or whoever is leading the organization. And be sure to include the name, title, and the person's name, title, and agency name and date signed with that signatory's name. Stacy, real quick, can you just kind of share your process for delegating roles and responsibilities on your team? Oh,
you're still muted, Stacey.
You're muted.
All those gems, if you don't mind.
Fine. Thank you all. Thank you all. So I have a lot of different partners that I work with, and Donna, it's been so important. I appreciate you sharing that information about the MOUs. My school had a process prior to me coming in of developing those MOUs, and they were just really great at it. And so I was able to follow their lead, and that simplified the process for me in developing those MOUs. But they're great. I have great partners on my team. I have community mental health agencies that we partner with, that we have MOAs with. I have a day treatment program that is a partner who we have an MOA agreement with. We also use medical providers as partners. So I have a psychiatric nurse practitioner who partners with me every week. You know, I'm always on the phone with him, and he's helping to provide treatment to students who have need. I also partner with colleges and universities because we bring mental health interns into our spaces as well, and that also is very helpful to us. So I do MOUs with those organizations. So really, it's far-reaching. We really try to utilize partners who are going to help us achieve our goals, and it's okay to think out of the box. You know, I think that one way I was able to do that was to reach out and partner with community, with colleges and universities to talk about mental health interns who need a clinical site. Well, our needs and their needs fit really great together. So it was, you know, it was a win-win on both ends. So, you know, really don't limit yourself. Think through who you might want to partner with. I do like to build into that MOU that it expires in 1 year, and we do that. We also put the clause in, Donna, that you were talking about, so that if it needs to end, if that contract does need to end, there's a way to do that. But otherwise, I like to review those MOUs every single year, and I know places do that in different ways. But it creates an opportunity for me to really sit down and evaluate, was that a healthy partnership? Were we able to meet our goals together? You know, did we collaborate well together? And so then present that to our board every year, rather than just having a continual contract. So don't limit yourself with partners. Really think out of the box and think about people who will want to partner with you in your organization.
Perfect, thanks. Shanisha?
Oh, yes. All right. So fostering communication and accountability. So fostering communication and accountability it's not just relationship building, it's very much systems driven in doing that. And you really want to be intentional here. And it's both important to have both internal and external systems in place to make sure you are fostering that. Internally, you know, we need to make sure that all team members are doing what they're supposed to be doing in the project, right? And so this could mean having regular meetings to check in on progress and make sure everyone is on the same page with the project goals, really using that RACI chart. You know, it's a great opportunity to do that internally. Externally, you know, we need to keep people that are on the outside of our immediate, they need to be informed, you know, about what we're doing. And this could involve giving updates to community leaders and organizations, keeping them in the loop about our progress and asking for their feedback. And I will just emphasize, definitely ask for their feedback. And by being transparent and accountable both within our team and with outside stakeholders, we can build trust and work together more effectively on the project. So, yes.
Great, thank you. And so I also want to talk about the importance of meetings, your collaborative meetings as a tool for fostering communication, as well as trust and relationship building. So, you know, one thing I've learned over time is that your meetings should be action-oriented and productive. And when they're not, your partners will let you know because they'll stop showing up. So, they always kind of warn you, but one way to ensure that you have those you're hosting action-oriented meetings is to set aside a dedicated planning period for those meetings. You should do it in advance, well in advance of your meeting. You want to clarify tasks and processes that engage your collaborative team members and will help to facilitate those effective meetings with great results. When designing meetings, be very clear about its purpose. Once the purpose is clear, employ strategies that support the meaningful involvement of those attending. Plan to meet consistently on a day and time that works best for all team members. And I recommend using calendar invitations to schedule reoccurring meetings. Send 1 to 2 meeting reminders or notifications prior to your meetings, and share the agenda and meeting minutes from the previous month ahead of time. A tool I use to plan my meeting is called a POP agenda. And Jenny, if you could actually share a link in the chat, that would be great. POP simply is an acronym for purpose, outcome, and process. And we're sharing a template here that you're certainly able to use. And if we can scroll down to the second page, I'd just like to share how to use it. It's a really valuable tool for the project coordinator because it does encourage thoughtful planning for your collaborative meetings. Of course, the top of the page identifies the name of the working group or team, the meeting date, time, and location. The agenda that we're sharing here was prepared for an actual meeting in which targeted community stakeholders representing multiple sectors were recruited to serve on the grants management team. With this tool, you'll work from the left to the right. And first, state the purpose for each agenda item. In the next column, write down what you want to happen, right? What is your goal? What is the outcome? And notice here, the second row states the purpose is a BCJI process overview. The end goal or outcome is that the team is aware of the Community Violence Action Plan and approval process for the grantee. To achieve the outcome, we plan to use a PowerPoint presentation to explain the BCJI Community Violence Intervention Planning and Approval process, followed by Q&A. And the last column identifies the time you'll dedicate to this particular agenda item and the person responsible for facilitation. And that's it. Super straightforward and a great tool for meeting planning and facilitation. Once you've completed your POP agenda, you're ready to create the meeting agenda you'll share with your partners. So you won't actually share the POP agenda, but you'll develop a regular meeting agenda that you'll share ahead of your meeting with your partners. So remember to use your meetings to reiterate your shared goals and outcomes, keep your discussions focused, to prioritize your valuable time, as well as your partners. Meetings offer time for valuable communication, accountability, problem solving, data review, and more. And always leave space for partner engagement and input. Next slide, Jenny. So remember that as project coordinators, you will collect monthly and or quarterly data to track progress towards your identified outcomes. In some situations, the data may indicate a need for adjustment when your program activities are not progressing as you had anticipated. Use your collaborative meetings to review the data again and again. Make time for meaningful partner input and feedback, as well as problem-solving conversations. And don't forget to talk about your good work. Share your plan and outcomes within your school or nonprofit and with your community stakeholders. Information sharing with the community helps raise awareness, it builds support, and presents opportunities for learning. Consider engaging stakeholders for information sharing at civic meetings, community events, utilize community newsletters and local media. Stacy, what are some of the practices that have worked for you to foster communication and accountability amongst your partners?
Yeah, that's a great question. I really think that if you understand your project goals well and your partners understand the goals, then you can really start to think about where's the data that I want to collect. And in collecting that data, it is going to help hold people accountable. So I'll give you a few examples of how I implemented some data tracking systems that might help some of you project coordinators. So in schools, we talk about multi-tiered systems of support, right? So we talk about different tiered levels of support we provide to students. So when I came into the school district, one thing that I was very interested in knowing about was where are those supports? How often are they occurring? And part of my goal was to make sure that the team of people I've hired with clinical expertise, that we are really focusing on those tier 3 needs. So those students who have higher needs. But in order for me to do that and then hold people accountable to the work, I really had to build shared data systems. So I came in and quickly, well, not quickly, but I came in and evaluated the process and determined that we have great community partners, but I was not able to speak to how many of our partners were meeting with students per day, or working with them, or providing therapy sessions for them. I could not speak to that because I might see a community partner walking into a school, but how many students are they going to work with? And what kind of work are they doing? And who are they? Are they a clinical therapist? Are they a case manager? Are they a support associate? Like, what is their role? So one system that I developed was a community tracking kind of system. And I created business cards for myself and put a QR code on it and handed it out to all my partners and said, every time you meet and work with a student, please scan that QR, and it's going to take you like 10 seconds to just drop a snapshot of what you've done. So the things that I thought were important were, who is the student you worked with? How long did you work with the student? And what was your goal? You know, what kind of an interaction was this? And then I also added a question, do you need anything from me or the school? Can we assist you in doing your work more effectively? So I can tell you all that any day of the week, I can go to this QR. It's a form. It's actually a Google form, and I can look at the responses, and I can say that over the course of this year so far, starting in August to February, our community partners have logged 800-ish interactions where they've come in and done work with students. And then I can look at that data to be able to tell you what kind of interaction those were. So that was very helpful to me. It was also helpful to the community partners, because you all know that when you work in a large organization, you're going to have people who just love your partners. And then you're going to have people who perhaps don't love your partners, and maybe they have reasons for not. But oftentimes I would hear people say the partners aren't showing up or the partners aren't doing their part. And so now I'm able to have that system that really does hold people accountable. You know, if they're telling us they're going to come in and do these things, I can now speak to that and say they are doing their part. They are showing up for us, doing great work for kids. I created the same kind of system for people who are on my team. And it might look a little bit different, but I can say that from August until now, we have tracked over, I think it's like 1,800 clinical therapy sessions pushed out by a team of around 9 clinicians. And so I'm able to track that kind of data. And that is so very important to me. I built another system that tracks higher levels of care. So when students need a higher level of care and they cannot manage in your school or in your organization, where are they going? Who is supporting them? And how are you tracking that? And so I'm able to see all those responses and speak to really a lot of the support we're providing to people. And that I can't tell you how helpful that has been to me in my role. So really giving some intentional thought about what data you need to collect, and then thinking through how to collect that, what's going to work. Use your community partners so that they will buy into the process also. We don't want people to feel like that we're just trying to, you know, keep our thumb on them. We want them to understand that this is an opportunity for us to just be stronger together and really know what each other is doing. And that has worked for us really well. So I hope that's helpful.
If I may, can you share how you anticipate your work influencing systems change in the school district?
Yeah, so it has already influenced change, and you know, we're just a little more than a year in. I'll give you an example of that. So you heard me mention that we have a building called the Academy, and the Academy really prioritizes education and care for students who are at risk, who are having difficulty maintaining in their local school environments. The systems that I've created, one being a referral system for services. You know, I had to teach people throughout the district, 12 different schools, how to utilize systems. And so the referral system, for instance, provides school counselors and administrators with opportunities to fill out a form, refer a student to my team so that we can evaluate what their needs are. Of course, they never make that referral without parent or guardian permission. That's very important, but that's a really good example of how a system has influenced the entire organization, because now we're all speaking the same language. We don't lose people as easily. They're not falling through the cracks because there is a unified system across the entire organization. I think it's also been helpful for administrators, counselors, school stakeholders, that they know that there is an evaluation process. So when those referrals come to us, we look at those and we can quantify need. So we can say, you know, it's kind of like triaging, really, to determine who needs what. And so that's an example of a shared data system that really has influenced, again, the whole organization. So.
Thank you for sharing that. That's great. All right, so I think we're ready to close out this webinar. And Ricardo, how much time do we have left?
We've got about 10 minutes.
Okay, great. Take it away, Shanisha.
Yes, so takeaways, and basically just to sum up today's session, you know, we wanted to highlight some key takeaways to enhance collaborative efforts in addressing youth violence and improving school capacity. Building a collaborative team is really important by figuring out what resources we have and getting new partners on board. Utilizing a RACI chart for shared goals and roles enhances planning. Lastly, fostering accountability through productive meetings and data sharing is essential for success. These strategies will strengthen our collaborative approach moving forward. And Jenny has shared the links to the resources we shared today in this webinar and tools, including the POP agenda in the chat. LISC will also share these resources with you after the webinar to deepen your understanding and insights. Also, here are 2 valuable resources for successful collaboration. One's a TED Talk. It's Finding Hope Through School Community Partnership. And the other is a Bridge Span report. It's needle moving community collaboratives. Both of these offer insights and strategies to drive impactful community initiatives. And so now as we wrap up this session, I'll hand it back over to Donna to guide us through the next steps.
Great. Thanks so much, Tanisha. So next steps. Again, I just want to remind you that tomorrow we're holding office hours at 1 p.m. And this is an opportunity to ask the 3 of us any questions you might have pertaining to project coordination. Also, you will hear from Shanisha or I to schedule one-on-one time to discuss how community capacity builders, or CCB, as we like to call ourselves, can support you at your site. And yeah, I think we might have time for a question if anyone has a question. And then we promise to let you get back to work at 1:15.
That's wonderful. And Donna, while folks are thinking, I want to just take a second just to acknowledge all of you. You know, thank you to all of our presenters. Really loved all the resources. A lot of folks have kind of chimed in with some private messages, just really appreciating everything in terms of the resources that have been shared and the really personal experiences that have been shared. So thank you all so much for that. And Donna has a note there on that kind of final bullet. So just to highlight that, if you are attending our convening in February, because I think we have some folks from the second cohort who may not be attending, just to highlight that we will be building off some of the themes that have been raised today. So I'm looking forward to kind of some of those continued discussions for those of you that are part of the cohort 1 that are attending the New York convening. But again, just really appreciate everyone's willingness to engage, you know, in terms of the messages. And thank you so much for sharing all the resources. And again, we will certainly make all this information available online. And for those of you who are interested, you are more than welcome to join us for virtual office hours tomorrow as well. And with that, I think we can give folks back 5 minutes as a Valentine's Day treat, if that's something that you ascribe to as well. All right, everyone, have a wonderful day. Goodbye for now.